Yeah, it looks like there's nobody here tonight.
Uh,
Yeah,
I wish.
with that it were just clarity.
Mhm.
The selfless self doesn't have a lot to say. It just is.
Has anyone ever seen the documentary by Ken Burns entitled The West?
The
It's
what?
on Netflix. The West. It's a documentary that was put together by Ken Burns,
Uh-huh.
and it's the whole phenomenon of the movement from the East Coast to the West Coast, the whole settlement of the West,
Oh,
beginning way back in like, with the Spanish arriving and so forth, and you know that whole time frame. So I've been watching that while, here with my mother at night. And it's very interesting because, it just really gives you a real sense of the play of time. So many characters, and his documentaries are extraordinary if you've never seen Ken Burns before, because
yeah.
he really researches, he gets photos and he gets letters and he gets the, everything. I mean, the way he puts this together is really extraordinary, and he's doing it from different points of view. You know, the settlers, the Indians, and so forth, the cavalry, and the gold miners, just the preachers, the missionaries. It's just really interesting, and uh, but it just really, I don't know, it just really gave me a sense of the how this whole phenomenon is just coming and going. It's just really. I mean, these lives that he presents them in such a way that they're so alive and dramatic, and they're based on history. I mean, like on fact. And then they're there, then they're no longer there. It's just in the sweep of history, just kind of like moving right along the whole play of time. It's just really, from nothing, something back to nothing. It's just really found it it's a very interesting to watch.
Yeah. God's play.
Yeah,
Is that on Netflix or is it
it's
something?
on Netflix. Yeah, it's on Netflix.
There's a lot of good stuff on Netflix,
Yeah,
including The Wild Country about Osho. That's another thing about the Enlightenment business that was conducted in Oregon with Rajneesh. It was a
oh
very
wow,
interesting story too about how they took over a town in Oregon
yeah.
and things. What could go wrong, right? Everything went wrong.
But it's still all about people.
That's
All
about,
about, the illusion that we're a person,
yeah, a lot of ego.
which, it, it just, I remind myself, but it continually comes up, the idea is still identification as a person.
Mhm. Especially when it gets threatened, right?
Yeah, or it has problems. You don't get that anymore at all, John? Or do you get it and then flip out of it, or how do you?
I mean, again, it's just scenes. Scenes kind of appear, and there's no putting them together. There's no I don't know. There's no like routine. It's just scenes. It's not any kind of a problem may come up during the day or something, and for a brief moment you're like, oh, and then it's just as quickly gone. There's no footprints in memory. There's no it's like Maharaj talks about the actor. You're here playing this role and you see this, oh, okay, but boom, and there's nothing's heavy. I mean, it's just not a there's no sense of anything that could be like, no. Well, what types of problems are you speaking about?
Oh, for me, stupid little things like I hurt my finger. Having trouble getting it to heal.
Well, I mean, pain is pain.
I know, but you could, when you're in pain, you could have pain and be identified as with all the mental stuff, or not be identified.
Right, right.
There are two different ways of handling it, particularly since it's not a very serious thing.
Right, right. Well, yeah, I mean, pain is pain, and pain is going to be boom, ow, oh man, that really hurts. Maybe cursing a little bit, but that's not like a mental process unless it's like, oh, I can't even think of how a mental process would happen with a finger being hit, other than just, ow, wow, that really hurt. Like,
well, the problem is it's been like about 5 days, and I can't get the swelling to go down. That's why
I would see a doctor.
Yeah, I guess I should.
I mean, I'm not a doctor, but if I hit my finger and I say, oh man, my finger's been swollen for 5, let me go see a doctor. I mean, you know what I mean? Rather than thinking about it, you just go and see a doctor, and then it'll happen one way or another. He says it's broken, take this, or oh, it's fine, take this, or do this, and then you do that, and then it's a spontaneous activity in the moment.
I know when something like something hits me, like a problem or whatever, or something maybe that I don't want, I find the more I just kind of like, there can always be like an initial kind of like, like a reaction, but then just basically sit back and kind of like settle back and just wait. And then it kind of unwinds itself, like if you do the mantra, or just basically recall some of the basic tenets of the teacher, like just bring it back, and, it's kind of like unravels.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's basically the way I try to handle it.
Yeah, if you're feeling like a feeling of depression, or a feeling of sadness, or a feeling of overwhelmness, you can always, just quickly say, oh, Master, you said that there was a 5 elemental disturbance. This is a 5 elemental body, and there happens to be a disturbance. It has nothing to do with me, but there's a 5 elemental disturbance that I'm witnessing. And that's it. And with mantra, and you're remaining with mantra, there's no I am somebody else that can actually get involved in a 5 elemental disturbance. Because it's just like clouds in the sky, and rain in the sky, and windy days and cold days, and there's no control, but they're just coming and going. And yeah, if you could be sitting there even watching a television program, and suddenly oh, there's sadness, or you start to relate to the what's on the screen, and you feel something. Okay, well, that's a 5 elemental experience. The senses are picking up that there's some kind of sensation running through, and there's no need for a story. It's just happening. It's here, and it's passing. It's passing because otherwise you wouldn't know this experience is different from any other experience. If you were constantly depressed, you wouldn't know that you were constantly depressed, because you'd be in the state of depression. As it would not change, you'd be one with your depression. And instead, you remain with your selfless self. You be one with your selfless self, and let this depressive state come and go. Or sadness, or worry, or concern, or any of these things. And just always quickly, oh, I notice, okay, I come back to my selfless self. Because remaining with the presence and staying with your selfless self, there's nothing that can attract you anymore. There's nothing that can disturb you anymore. And if there's a disturbance, then you quickly acknowledge, oh, there's a disturbance. Okay, boom, boom. It's not happening to me, but this body instrument that I'm using has sensations, has senses, hearing, touch, smell, taste, all these things. If I taste something and I don't like it, I spit it out. This is very simple. So my body is sensing that, oh, it's really hot. I don't like so much hot. But I don't have to make a big show about it. I'm just, oh, I'm hot. That's it. Oh, now I'm not hot. Oh, it's raining. I forgot to bring my umbrella. But I'm getting rained on only for a brief moment until I get in my car or I go someplace where I'm not, or I get under an underhang. So everything is just scenes, but I'm not like taking the touch. And I'm not worried about like, okay, last week I got rained on and now I'm going outside and looking around for rain and stuff. No, it's not like this.
And trying to fix anything is also taking the touch, because then you're giving it reality. If you say, oh, I got to fix this depression, or you know, you get triggered by something. Maybe you're watching an opera, and it was very sad. And I was feeling all this sadness, you know, because I could relate to the character, you know, in the opera. And, you know, and I'm like, oh, you know, but it's like the tendency is to make something out of it rather than just allowing it to say, oh, okay, there's sadness coming up because I'm relating to this character. And, you know.
And then you notice the sadness, but from the position of noticing the sadness, you're automatically out of it. You're not caught up with the river of sadness where you're jumping in and then thinking about, you know, you start to think, your mind searches and tries to find reasons for being sad, even though there's no cause, because the mind is a cause and effect type thing where it says, oh, sadness, there has to be a reason so we can fix this and move about. But no. Especially, you know, like you were saying, in opera, and I watch TV shows where I'm identified with the character and, oh my God, they got killed? That's terrible. And you feel it, especially they set it up, a very emotional scene. But you just fall back into the position of witnessing this sadness and allow it to go. And you could be, I mean, Maharaj talks about all the time, constant thoughts are flowing, and which one to choose and which one not to choose is up to you. So a thought of sadness or a thought, these feelings and these emotions, they're just flowing by. You don't have to choose, and it doesn't have to be a reason. This is a 5 elemental body, and like Maharaj says, there can be a disturbance in the 5 elemental body, and suddenly you feel like overwhelmed or anxiety or something like this. But okay, that's occurring in the 5 elemental body. I'm not the body, I'm the holder of the body. And I just need to adjust my position to sort of witness this anxiety or witness this sadness, but allow it to just go. I don't take the touch of it. Ooh, I feel anxiety. Why? Because, or fear, you know, your heart starts to race, you start to breathe faster and all this kind of stuff. But okay, that's happening. I notice this and then allow it to go without taking any touch. I mean, if a bear or something, fear of a bear, you'd want to get away from the bear, not just sit there and, oh, I'm selfless self, this bear is not, I'm not fearful of this bear anymore. But you know what I mean.
I know, it seems like I don't know, that traditionally, you know, one sees in works of art like an opera or something like that, you see a character and then you think, well, what could I learn? You know, I mean, that's been my approach. What can I learn from this character or whatever? But that seems like going down the wrong path to try to figure out, you know, well, why did she have such a terrible life? It's because she indulged in pleasure her whole life, you know, and then she's learning the fruits of her, you know, her dissolute life, and her life has gone by, and she, you know, realizes, oh my goodness, you know, I've gone down the wrong path. So there's like a kind of a lesson in that, but maybe that's not the way to look at it, you know.
Well, again, I mean, you very lightly take the touch. Okay, there's a lesson to be learned there. Remain with yourself that you know. See, that's why Maharaj says, once you know yourself in a real sense, then enjoy the world, play in the world. listen to things like this and contemplate, oh, this woman's life, that was a good example of not doing XYZ, but you're not taking the touch for yourself. It's not a personal thing. As a matter of fact, it's just the dream. And these various things are occurring within the dream, and you're seeing them, witnessing them. That's it. And you don't have to keep reminding yourself. Like Maharaj says, you don't have to sit there and say, I'm a woman, I'm a woman, I'm a woman, I'm a woman. And while you're getting coffee, I'm a woman. And when you're out with friends, you have to keep reminding yourself, no, I'm a woman, I'm a woman. You don't have to do this. And it's the same when you remain with your selfless self. And you be with yourself, be with you always, then carry on, do all these things. Selfless self is eating. Selfless self is walking. Selfless self is jogging. Selfless self is biking. But it doesn't have to keep saying, oh, yeah, that's right. This sense of presence is actually holding this body that's doing this bicycling or doing this jogging or doing this walking, because you just know. And that's why Maharaj says, I don't have to sit there and say, oh, I'm a man, I'm a man, I'm a man, I'm a man. And wherever I go in the grocery store and I'm looking for food and I have to keep reminding myself, oh, I'm a man, I'm a man. No, you're just doing your activities, and this is just known now. You and this knowingness are one. This sense of presence is your own selfless self. That's it. And now enjoy. And when things start boiling or bubbling, just gently remind yourself, aha, this is the time where I actually do need to remind myself, I'm a woman, I'm a woman, I'm a woman. Meaning, I'm the selfless self.
Right.
I seem to have forgotten in this moment. I need to refresh my memories. Well, Maharaj says how to refresh your memories. Remain with your selfless self, mantra, and invite the attention of the invisible listener so you can sort of enjoy the nectar of immortality, which is that sense of presence. And then you refresh your memories again. You no longer need to say, I am Brahman, or I am selfless self, I am selfless self. You refresh your memories and go about doing whatever needs to be done in the moment. And when you are living in this way, you will notice that it's just scenes. Just scenes coming before you. Oh, here I am doing this. Here I am doing this. Here I am over here doing this. And you're just here, like available for whatever happens in the moment, with spontaneous actions occurring and just being here.
But somehow, thought comes in that says, I shouldn't be here, or this shouldn't be happening. And they're like automatic kind of thoughts. And you have to be aware that those thoughts are what is running the depression or whatever. You think, well, this shouldn't be this way. And that seems like it's a hard thought to get rid of.
Well, remember, nothing's happening.
Yeah.
You can remind yourself that this happening that I'm not enjoying, that I wish would go faster, it's not happening.
Yeah. Ultimately, no.
It's not happening. But it needs my attention in the moment, but this happening that seems to be disturbing me is not happening. In the dream, again, as the example, you're doing something, and let's say you go and the store is closed and you desperately want, but you're in the dream. And you're like dreaming, you say, oh, well, this is very terrible that I can't do what I want to do. But, oh, yeah, it's just a dream. So, okay, for the moment, I think, oh, I can't do this. But in the reality, and then what do I need to do? I need to refresh my memory. Oh, yeah, that's right. Selfless self, remain with my selfless self, sense of presence, formlessly aware, just I, just I. It seemed that there were a little bit of coverings covering myself, but I slowly and silently and permanently disregard all these. And just in the moment, notice and discard. Oh, like you said, you're sitting there and you start to feel, you could just be sitting there and you were enjoying some tea or whatever, and then you just start feeling kind of not 100%. And then you see thoughts coming in for why you don't feel 100%. And in that moment, you say, aha, oh, hold on. No. Refresh my memories. I am not body. I was not body. I'm not going to remain the body. Master has told me that the five, bless you, the five elemental body will experience some disturbances as the five elements are, that's what they do. As long as you're holding this body, there's going to be disturbances because this body is in an elemental world. But you're not. You're the projector of this entire elemental world. Because in the reality, this nothing that you are, suddenly there's a sense of existence that creates a seeming something. And you're worried about the seeming something that's just appearing for a short time, not the nectar of immortality, which is just diving back in and remaining with your presence. And that's it. But yet you can still do all these things. And yet, then again, if you start to take the touch, then, okay, refreshing the memories, mantra, bhajan. I need to touch it, stay in touch with my selfless self, because you can even sit there and say in the middle of the day, oh, I wasn't really in touch with my selfless self for hours now, and I'm starting to get a little anxiety, I'm starting to get a little this. So I sit and maybe some mantra, invite the attention of the invisible listener, refresh my memories that, oh yeah, I am not body, I was not body, I'm not going to remain the body. This formless sense of presence, I'm a knower, a formless knower of this sense of presence. Therefore, this thing that seems to be bothering me in this moment is not. It can't be happening when I remain with my selfless self.
Sometimes what helps me is the notion of surrender. I was reading a little bit by Siddha Rameshwara, and he spoke about this whole idea of the circle of ignorance. It seems that it evolved around the way they would used to fight way back in the time of Arjuna. The opposing armies would form circles. And so, like a chariot, a charioteer basically would drive into the circle and penetrate it. It was always very easy to get into it, but getting out was always the trick. And so the brother of Arjuna actually died because he thought he could do it on his own. He was I guess he had, it was the whole, basically it's a symbol of ego. I can handle this on my own. But Arjuna was different because Lord Krishna was his chariot driver. So he could penetrate that circle and then get back out of it.
Yes,
and he gave so the idea is that what Siddha Rameshwara says is you must give the reins over to the master.
Yes.
It's like, and I know Siddha Rameshwara would say, give me your mind. It's that surrender, like maybe in those moments of challenge and that, I hand it over to you, just put it in the hands of the master to kind of guide to guide us out of that kind of whatever we happen to be in.
Yes.
That area of, could be, danger of some sort or fear or, some temptation or whatever to get out of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Ramakat Maharaj says, the master takes form based on the needs in the moment that you may have. And in that case, you can say, okay, yeah, oh, this thought is going and these things are happening. Okay, master, I'm at your feet. Just as simple, at your feet, master. At your feet meaning the teachings, meaning all of these sort of things, but the master takes form as and when required. The charioteer. And this whole idea of Arjuna was a perfect example because that unbroken samadhi, that was remaining with selfless self, remaining with the sense of presence while going into battle and fighting. Now we think that, oh, I'm sitting in my house, I get a little depression or a little sadness or whatever. But imagine going into battle, arrows flying all over the place. I don't know, you watch like Spartacus, and that's like the same kind of thing. They're all on each other and hammering with the swords and blood flying everywhere and all this. And that was Arjuna, having been taught this of, oh yes, I remain with my selfless self. I be with you always. I don't let the attention go out. The things that need doing in the moment, that I am not the doership. I'm not taking ownership. I think it was also said about Arjuna not taking credit. There's like, you're not killing anyone. No one's being killed or anything like that. But don't go out there to go for fame or for glory. Just go out to do your duty.
Right.
And don't take the touch of these things. That's the, and what you were just mentioning, come into the circle and out, into the world and out of the world, into the world, out of the world, untouched. Master is the chariot driver. You're just along for the ride.
Thank God. To John and myself.
Yeah, it's like relinquishing the attachment to the outcome and following some kind of guidance, because in a way, the story of Arjuna and Krishna is meant to be a metaphor. I mean, I don't know if it actually happened, but there's the metaphor of, Krishna is always with you in the sense of the selfless self. And so it's not up to you. So you just follow whatever seems to be arising, not as you doing it, but as you're guided. It's sort of like a relinquishing of the guidance as to what comes next. I mean, I'm thinking about, when you're in an argument, let's say you have to present a case of some sort, and you have to make your case, and they're against a lot of opposition. So, but it's more like, okay, I'm just here to make the case, but the outcome is not in my hands. So that's a kind of surrender, right?
Were you doing your best in the moment to make your case, and then you drop it?
Yeah.
You're not getting upset about it or any of these kind of, you're, again, it's something that's in the moment and dropped. It's not just like any kind of work, you're 100% into it. You're doing what needs to be done, but you're not taking the pressure of, oh, look at this long things to do list or anything. It's just, okay, this is a list of things that need to be done. Doing this and finishing, doing this and finishing. Okay, this, go to this meeting. But it's against the background of selfless self. And because you know yourself in a real sense, you know that all of this is just occurring on your spontaneous presence. And you remain just witnessing the presence, not witnessing because the presence is there. So your attention is on the presence, and the entire world is then projected on spontaneous presence. So all of these happenings can't get through to you. Although you can, like you said, if you're making an argument of, these are the facts and this is this and this, but you're not taking it personally.
Even though there could be a lot of stress, because, your heart's beating and you're, trying to do the best you can in a sort of a pressured kind of situation. You feel your heart, kind of beating, and you feel like, I really want to do justice to the cause that I'm working with. I want to be able to really meet the moment, So for me, that's really stressful to be able to speak in the moment to the situation, and not to sort of like what do you call it, zone out or anything. There's a lot of stress that comes up that says, okay, I'm here and I got to say this, and whatever. So there is stress in the body, but that doesn't mean
body things, heart racing and breathing and all that is all body related stuff. Yeah. And it's the role you're playing. Like Maharaj says, do the job, do your duties, give 100% for what you're doing, but know that it's behind the background is your presence. I know when I go and meet with offices about their web stuff and all of this, it's presence. It's just, and you're speaking, and there's no plotting, there's no planning, there's no, but yet you're doing your job. You're getting information from the client and writing it down and offering suggestions. But you're not so involved in it. Just like now, speaking, feeling presence just so strong, and the speaking is occurring inside the presence to the presence, and there's no sense of even if we weren't just on these little screens, if the people were actually at the table, it would be the same, just speaking, but not kind of processing, oh, how do I have to speak to Kathleen, or how did John sound, or it's just speaking and listening, and it's known, it's felt. When it's not felt, there will be a block where you're not feeling the presence so strongly, because there is like a filter of a body-mind idea behind the sense of presence that's speaking to you. And then you've created, as soon as you notice this kind of, this thickness, so to speak, then you've created an automatic separation or sense of separation of, I am sensing this from this person. And then immediately you're in it.
Yeah.
But it's just a flow. You know, it's not it's so light, just light, light, light. And I can see, yes, even you're presenting, and when I go to work, I present these ideas, and maybe the customer has a little bit idea that maybe we need to steer them in a different direction because they're not as technologically savvy, or they want something that we can't do. But in the moment, you just do that. But the sense of presence is so strong and so surrounding that that's where the attention is. So the attention is always on presence, not like zoning out, but just even in this moment, you can feel presence and they're speaking and listening in a flow, but presence is unbroken.
Well, yeah, there's trust too that what needs to be said will be said. It's sort of a trust in the flow.
Didn't Jesus say that don't worry about what you're going to do or say? It'll be given to you in the moment, the Spirit.
Exactly.
And then maybe I think if you're really given over to the Master, you really can't make any mistakes. Because it just, I guess the whole idea of a mistake or not a mistake is kind of like becomes something that really is redundant, maybe.
But sometimes you can't tell. The result might not be what you expect, but it might be the right result because you're not sure exactly how it's going to unfold because you don't know that part of it.
Yeah, just do no harm.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. That I think is like, if you're intentionally doing something, then you've created a sense of egoistic sense of self that is attacking or doing something to create an experience for someone.
Right.
That I would say is not. But other than that, like Andrew said, see, you're not behaving like selfishly or untrustworthy or anything like this, these natural behaviors, because there's no one, like I can't con Kathleen or think, ooh, I'm going to get one over on Kathleen or something. How? Because it's like, there's a knowingness that the whole thing is just in the show, basically. So what is there to gain by saying, oh, I'm pulling the wool over your eyes, or, oh, I get Andrew to get angry with Kathleen so that I can get my way. These are not, it's not. It's just a natural, very, very easy, very light. And because there's no you and there's no other, there's no fear of anything or anyone outside your selfless self.
Yeah, there's no power over, in the sense, the people that try to overpower to get their particular, you're sort of jamming an idea down somebody's throat. It's not like that at all. It's more a kind of, I don't know, just a kind of unveiling or explaining or putting it out there kind of thing, rather than you've got to get this or else.
Right. Well, and the truth is, too, from the perspective of someone who believes that they're stuffing an idea down another person's throat, you know, Revolutionary War, Civil War, you know, all these, somebody tried to stuff something down another person's throat and they rebel. It's not, there is no, because the selfless self is just kind of interacting with itself.
Yeah.
And if you're thinking that both people are having this one thought flow, there's like one mind, which it is, it's this bubble of illusion that all of this is occurring inside. So the thoughts that you're having about me and the thoughts that I'm having about you are actually thoughts, just thoughts. And the you and the me is attaching itself through identification as this is my thought, this is your thought, these are the actions we're trying to do. But it's not like that.
Yeah, that really applies to the political situation, you know. It's like, you know, certain things are do or die, but that's not really the way it is, you know.
And that's so easy. Again, refreshing the memories. Oh, I got caught up in that for a brief moment. Refresh the memories. Selfless self. I am not body. I was not body. I'm not going to remain the body. So if I'm not a body, then all this stuff can't be happening to me. It's happening to this body in this illusory world. I remain with the presence as the only thing, like Nisargadatta Maharaj says, remain with the I am. In all things, always remain with the I am. Rabakant Maharaj says, be with you always. Selfless self. The sense of presence. That's where you are. You just be with you. Something's happening out here, let it happen. Okay, it's way out here. Because you know that you're the knower of this sense of presence, and that the nothing, there is an appearance of this something, this circle. You're going into the circle. Okay, you can peer into the circle because you have this body, so you have a telescope into the illusion. So you're looking in the illusion, and then you're out. Okay, but you were always out. It's all occurring out here. You're not there. Nothing's actually happening. And no deed, no doer. You're formless.
Yeah, I think it helps to really grasp the fact that it is all an illusion. Otherwise, we give value to all these things, and we get caught up in them. By the value we place on them. I got to win, or I got to get this, or, whatever it could be. But it's just that that strong, deep conviction that it's not true. It's just not real. And once that settles in, and I think it's a gradual process of maybe like some people may get it quickly, others may take a while, but it's kind of like that dawning awareness that none of this has real value in the sense that it's just not real. So you do your part, you play your part, whatever way you're inspired or moved to do this or do that, say this, say that, and as you say, like always being aware of the fact that you don't want to kind of like hurt someone else, but basically just, doing what you can do and waiting for the inspiration to kind of like move you, maybe, I think, because, in my family, there's my niece has her son, I think he's 22 or 23. his father passed away while he was driving him. He had a heart attack. His name is Ryan, her son. And he tried to get his father to the hospital and everything else. And so he's been kind of like a reclusive ever since. And, like people, in the family, they say, well, what we're going to do about Ryan? We got to get him out. He's, got to get him out of that shell or whatever. And, previously I used to try to go talk to him or something like that. But he's just where he is. And so I don't feel inclined to do that anymore. And so people will say, well, maybe you should go try to talk to him, or you can't let him stay in that situation and so forth. And I don't know, I just feel that maybe it's better I'll wait till I feel inspired. If whatever I'm going to be doing in a situation, if anything, I'll just let it happen spontaneously. But I'm not going to kind of think my way into it, because then it becomes something like you jamming something down someone else's throat. This unwanted advice. Because I remember people trying to give me advice many years ago, and it didn't really make any difference to me at all. I mean, people would tell me this and tell me that, and it just didn't matter. I mean, I just kind of it just happened the way it happened, and I don't know. Yeah.
And what you said too about the inspiration will appear in the moment.
Right.
It's very true. And see, you're stepping forward in courage, one step and another step creates the reality that you're seeing. Like what your thoughts, ideas, and beliefs that you may be holding on to are creating in your experience. But like Maharaj says, behave like a Brahmin. You are all of everything in all things. So you're moving through and you're naturally kind and all this sort of stuff because you're not wanting anything. And you can share experience of what maybe you've learned or something like that. That's fine too. But the inspiration is just what's ever happening in the moment. And that's the way it is anyway. The whole thought process of I would like to start being more spontaneous is just I would like to remain with my selfless self more and not follow a train of thought that seems to take credit for actions after the fact.
Right.
And the inspiration is, I told you, there's a couple of times where I've bought picture frames or something like that. And then like the next month gone online, and because something happened on WhatsApp and it was really nice image of Maharaj or something, and I'll send that and that'll buy the picture frame. So, and I don't question that. Like if I had a mind that was sitting there running thoughts and saying, why am I buying this? Or why am I doing this? Or why am I, no, these are just spontaneous actions. And then they all kind of make sense afterwards because it's various pieces of the puzzle that all fit together, but they fit together after the fact when you sit and you say, oh, look, there's a puzzle. Rather than the mind that sits there and says, oh, I really need this next piece, or I want this next piece, or I have to find this next piece to go in this space. No, I might be building the puzzle with 1,000 pieces and doing it spontaneously.
Right, yeah.
No need to figure it out. Even sometimes, and I can say for my own self, okay, take the metro or take the MARC train or this or that, and there's no set pattern. Sometimes it's just like, okay, oh, I'm off doing this. And there's not I have to do it like this. And I allow for that spontaneity. I give openness. I give space, so to speak, by remaining with presence and not trying to figure it all out. I give space for spontaneity to occur so that there's not this thought process and this heavy thinking of I'm water and this. Everything is just pick it up, put it down, because I'm creating space. There's not a constriction of I am John and I must behave this way and I must do these things and I must do this and I don't like this and I don't like that and I don't want to try this or anything. No, it's just open open and available to life as it shows up. And it can be kind of scary too when these things start occurring spontaneously and you're like, whoa, you know, this is like, it's totally different than how I did it before. Am I going to make sure? Oh, no. I just keep courage. Keep courage. Okay, Master said, in the next moment, I step forward, and that power is provided, and here I am. And then there is no need to know the next, and to plan, and to think, and to scheme, and all this sort of stuff. It's just scenes that are appearing, and you behave properly in the moment, putting your puzzle together one piece at a time, rather than seeing the whole puzzle and trying to figure out how all the pieces are going to go into it.
That's all about control.
The illusion of control.
Yeah.
And the illusion of control is the mind's responsibility for you to follow thoughts saying that this shouldn't be, so that you can become all kinds of upset about the fact that it shouldn't be, but it is. So that's like just bizarre insanity to be thinking that this should not be, and trying to deny the reality in the moment. And then kind of being drug along as an anchor to the way I thought yesterday should have been, and now I'm in today, dragging yesterday and how it should have been into today, and looking for different various points of how today might turn out like yesterday, and I don't want yesterday, but I'm holding on to yesterday and my attention is divided, and I'm somebody else is just ringing. But see, even then you say, oh, wow. Yeah. Time to refresh my memories. I am not the body. I was that body. I'm not going to remain the body. And remain with your selfless self. Oh, Mary's here. Hello, Mary.
She just signed on.
Yes. Yeah, I saw the screen changed. Oh yeah,
It got smaller.
Yeah, they got smaller and then little more blocks and.
Got to fit everybody. They can only fit so many blocks, and then you have to scroll over.
Yeah, take a look.
Well, I think it's 4, 8, 12 that can be fit in a Zoom window, or no? I don't know.
Gallery place. Well, yeah. Well, it depends on the number of people, because the squares are larger if there's fewer people, but if there's more people, then the squares are smaller.
Right.
I don't know how many, what's the limit? I don't know how small it gets.
I don't know.
You know, Nisargadatta speaks about, worshiping consciousness as kind of like the first step, basically. And I think that the mantra is basically that. That's what it is. Basically, it's the worship of that sort of pure consciousness, that presence, that which they call Brahman, Shiva, and so forth and so forth. So the mantra is basically that. And it's the consciousness, the pure consciousness devoid of any content. Like in that song after Kakarati with the Shivoham, Shivoham. Mm-hmm. The whole thing progresses from, you're not this, 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 you're not the body, the mind, you're not the intellect, you're not the emotional body, whatever. And then basically it comes to, what is it? Beyond concept, without thought, beyond form, something like that. Mm-hmm. All pervading in all the senses. And so it's just that, so the mantra is really basically that worship of pure presence, pure consciousness, devoid of content. And
well, presence, like Maharaj says, you're inviting the attention of the invisible listener, and that's presence kind of viewing presence or presence to presence. You're observing presence, and that's the knower. You're the knower of this sense of presence, and presence being this consciousness that everything is coming on. All of the world is the dream type state. The presence is just the sense of existence. And then you're the knower of this sense of existence that all of this is appearing on. And that's why I meditate on the meditator. Instead of watching the passing things in the consciousness for meditation, you meditate on the meditator, or the center of meditation from where all of this is arising. And therefore the meditator that's in the consciousness disappears, because it's just the meditation without objects, without anything. Consciousness worshiping consciousness, or consciousness observing consciousness, or however you want to speak about that.
Yeah, somehow the word worship resonates with me. You know, just there's something more heartfelt about it, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, earnestness, all in. That's the master. You know, that's the master that you are. And that's the devotion after liberation, is continuously worshiping this selfless self through the form of the master.
The worship is, I guess, they call it the bhakti approach, or the Gnani approach.
Both are the same in reality, but because it's still one center, and both of those worships are going on inside the consciousness. But consciousness worshiping consciousness, the pure consciousness, so to speak, using what do you call it? An adjective for consciousness that's not needed, but is just for explanation, instead of the contents of consciousness.
Yeah.
The contents of consciousness would be, you know, your activities, or a building, or people, or something like this. And the consciousness worshiping consciousness, just that just I, the I am, the sense of presence that is actually worshiping that sense of presence. And how do you worship? Worship means, basically, when you break it down to the bottom line level, the attention. Where your attention is where you're worshiping. If your attention is focused on this sense of presence, then you are worshiping this sense of presence, instead of the spontaneity, all the stuff and all the creation that's going on the presence. You're worshiping the presence. Your attention is on the presence. And you don't give that worship away. You don't break it up. You're one-pointed. You worship only one God, this sense of presence. And that, you are the knower of this sense of presence, and you remain there. You do not worship all these other kind of things that are out there in consciousness appearing. You worship only the sense of presence. Worship full attention, sense of presence, rather than the objects that are appearing on that presence.
It's also what you do with it too. I mean, it's also an action, because if your actions are showing that you're worshiping something else, in other words, if you're following some egoic thing, that's not worship, or that's worshiping something else.
Exactly. I mean, the attention is on the sense of presence.
Right.
And the reward, quote, for that, as Maharaj says, is that sense of presence grows. You sense the sense of presence growing. Why? Because your attention is no longer divided on you are a body in a world with all these things. You're remaining single focused on the sense of presence. You're the knower of the sense of presence.
Hello.
Go ahead. Hello.
Oh, hi. It's Mary.
Hello, hello.
Hello. I really am inspired by those descriptions when you are worshiping the sense of presence and are abiding there in your emptiness. It's described how presence begins to suck you in, and take you as its own. And the more, even if it's only a moment or two that you abide there, the more you abide there, the more it takes you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Absolutely. I mean, all the things that are appearing on presence, you remain focused on the sense of presence. Don't be focused on all these other things. Like we're saying, the sense of presence grows, but it's not the sense of presence growing. It's like Maharaj says, the illusory layers are dissolving slowly, silently, and permanently. And the illusory layer is that I am feeling this sense of presence. No, this I that I thought I was is an appearance on the presence and can just be discarded. The only thing that needs to be done with that is just discard it and pay attention to the presence. I think it talks about you can't worship two masters. You cannot worship and stay involved in the presence and also try to gain some kind of fluffy clouds from the world. So instead, you remain with your selfless self. You remain as the knower of the sense of presence on which everything appears. And yet, that says, you don't have to keep saying, I'm a woman, I'm a woman, I'm a woman, or I'm a man, I'm a man, I'm a man. You remain with the sense of presence and go out into the world and do what you must do. Enjoy. Spontaneous actions without any actor. Anytime that you don't have your attention on presence, again, just pull it back. Oh, time to refresh my memories. I'm seemingly believing that I'm a body in a world. I need to remain with mantra, meditation, bhajan, remain with selfless self. Okay, okay. It looks
Okay.
like.
I think it's time.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very much.
Everybody
Good.
enjoy.
Yeah.
Okay. Namaste.
Namaste.
Stay.
Okay.